Captain Katie Morrison had been on Sentinel-7 station for 3 months when she received the invitation. It came through official channels, stamped with the seal of the Kavari Empire. She read it twice to make sure she understood correctly. The Kavari wanted her to observe their warrior training. No human had ever been allowed to see it before. Katie sat in her small quarters and stared at the message on her datapad. She was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life forms. Her job was to help humans understand the different species they met in space. The Kavari were one of the most important species in this sector of the galaxy, and they were also one of the most private. The Kavari looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs. They stood 8 feet tall, covered in thick scales that could stop most small weapons. Their teeth were sharp, their claws were sharper, and their golden eyes could see in almost total darkness. They had been warriors for 10,000 years. Every child in human space learned about the Kavari in history classes. They were powerful, disciplined, and they did not trust outsiders easily. The treaty between humans and the Kavari Empire was only 2 years old. It had taken 5 years of careful negotiations to reach that point. Cultural exchanges were part of the treaty. The Kavari had sent observers to human military academies. Now it was humanity's turn to send someone to observe their training. Katie understood why they picked her. She had written 3 papers on Kavari biology. She spoke their language better than most humans. She had worked with Commander Vexthal, the Kavari liaison on the station, for months without incident, but understanding why they chose her did not make her less nervous. She met with Commander Vexthal the next day in his office. The Kavari commander was old by his species standards, his scales marked with scars from dozens of battles. He sat behind a desk that was too large for human furniture but perfect for his frame. "You understand this is a great honor," Vexthal said. His voice was deep and rough like stones grinding together. "I do, Commander," Katie replied. "I will not waste this opportunity. The young ones will be training tomorrow. They are cubs, but do not let that fool you. They are still Kavari. They are still dangerous." Katie nodded. She had seen young Kavari before, from a distance. They were smaller than adults, but still taller than most humans. They moved with the same predatory grace as their parents. "I will observe from the designated area," she said. "I will not interfere." Vexthal studied her with his golden eyes. "Good. The training begins at dawn, station time. I will have someone escort you to the viewing platform." That night, Katie barely slept. She reviewed everything she knew about Kavari culture. They valued strength, discipline, and honor above all else. Weakness was not tolerated. Their young began combat training at the age of 6, by human counting. They learned to fight before they learned to read. The next morning, Katie dressed in her uniform and met her escort outside her quarters. The escort was a young Kavari soldier who said nothing during the entire walk to the training hall. They moved through corridors that became less familiar. This part of the station was Kavari territory. The doors were taller, the gravity was slightly higher, and the temperature was warmer than the human sections. The training hall was enormous. The ceiling stretched up 3 stories. The walls were covered in marks from claws and weapons. Burn marks from plasma fire darkened several sections. The floor was made of some kind of dark metal that showed centuries of use. A group of young Kavari stood in formation on the training floor. Katie counted 30 of them. They wore simple training clothes and each held a practice weapon. Some had blades, others had staffs. All of them stood perfectly still, waiting for their instructor. The instructor was a massive Kavari with more scars than Vexthal. His name was Sergeant Thaxil, according to the information Katie had received. He paced in front of the young ones, his voice carrying across the hall as he barked orders. Katie's escort led her toward a platform on the side of the hall. It was elevated about 10 feet off the ground with a clear view of the training floor. Perfect for observation. But as they walked along the wall, Katie's datapad buzzed. She pulled it out and checked the message. It was from Vexthal, asking for an immediate report on something else entirely. Something about supply shipments. She stopped to read the full message. Her escort kept walking, not noticing she had fallen behind. When Katie looked up from her datapad, the escort was gone around a corner. She was alone in an unfamiliar corridor. Katie tried to retrace her steps, but the corridors all looked the same. She turned left, then right, then left again. She should have found the main hallway by now. Instead, she found a door. It was partially open, and through it she could hear the sounds of the training session. Voices shouting, weapons clashing. She pushed the door open wider and stepped through. She expected to find another corridor, maybe one that led to the viewing platform. Instead, she found herself on the training floor itself. She had come through a side entrance meant for the training staff, not observers. Katie froze. She was standing on the edge of the training area, maybe 20 feet from the nearest young Kavari. The door clicked shut behind her with a sound that echoed through the hall. The training stopped. 30 young Kavari turned to look at her. Sergeant Thaxel turned as well, his eyes widening in surprise. Katie's heart pounded in her chest. She had made a terrible mistake. She was in the wrong place, standing where she should not be. The cubs stood between her and the main exit. Each of them held a weapon. Each of them was staring at her with golden eyes that humans had learned to fear over the years of first contact. She knew she should back away slowly. She knew she should apologize and find the proper viewing area. But she could not move. She was frozen, like a small animal that had wandered into a den of predators. Sergeant Thaxil barked an order in Kavari. Katie understood the words. He was telling the cubs to return to formation, to continue their training. But the cubs did not move. They kept staring at Katie. Then something changed. Katie's eyes adjusted to the formation of young Kavari, and she noticed something she had missed before. The smallest cub stood in the back row, partially hidden by the others. Its stance was wrong. Its grip on the practice blade was uncertain, and it was shaking. Katie had spent years studying animal behavior before she specialized in alien biology. She recognized fear when she saw it. That small cub was terrified. Maybe it was struggling with the training. Maybe the others bullied it for being weak. Maybe it was just having a bad day. But Katie saw that fear, and something inside her responded before her brain could stop it. She smiled. It was instinct, automatic. Humans smiled to show they meant no harm. Then she did something that would change everything. She knelt down on the training floor, making herself smaller, less threatening. She extended her hand, palm up, in the universal human gesture of offering and friendship. "It's okay, little one," she said in careful Kavari. Her accent was not perfect, but the words were clear. "You're doing great." The small cub dropped its weapon. The practice blade hit the metal floor with a loud clang. The sound echoed through the training hall. Every eye turned to watch the smallest cub move forward. Its steps were hesitant at first, then faster. Within seconds, it pressed itself against Katie's side, its scaled head resting against her shoulder. Katie felt the young Kavari trembling. Without thinking, she wrapped her arm around it. Her hand moved to stroke the top of its head, the way humans had comforted scared children for thousands of years. The scales were warm under her fingers, smoother than she expected. "There you go," Katie whispered. "You're safe now." The cub made a sound. It was not a growl or a hiss. It was something softer, quieter. Katie realized with surprise that it was purring. She had not known Kavari could purr. Sergeant Thaxil shouted another order. His voice was loud and commanding. He told the cubs to return to formation immediately, but his words had no effect. Another cub moved toward Katie, then another, then 5 more. The weapons fell to the floor one by one. Practice blades, staffs, and training shields clattered and bounced. The cubs abandoned their positions and rushed forward. They surrounded Katie in seconds, pressing close, pushing against each other to get near her. Katie found herself sitting on the floor, though she did not remember choosing to sit. Young Kavari crowded around her from all sides. Some touched her hair with careful claws, curious about its texture. Others leaned against her arms and legs. A few just stood close, watching her with wide golden eyes. "Hey, careful there," Katie said as one cub accidentally stepped on her foot, but she was smiling. She could not help it. The cubs were acting like puppies, like kittens, like any young creature seeking comfort and attention. She checked each cub that came close. One had a scrape on its knee. Katie made soft, sympathetic sounds and touched it gently. The cub leaned into her hand, Another cub showed her a bruise on its arm. Katie examined it carefully and said it looked like it would heal fine. The cub seemed pleased. Two smaller cubs pulled at her hands, wanting to play some kind of game. Katie showed them a simple clapping pattern, the kind human children played. The cubs tried to copy it, their clawed hands making different sounds than human hands would. They thought it was wonderful and kept trying until they got it right. One cub started babbling excitedly in Kavari, too fast for Katie to follow every word. But she caught enough to understand it was proud of something it had done in training earlier. Katie listened and nodded and praised what she understood. The cub's eyes glowed with happiness. High above the training floor in the command center that overlooked the hall, Commander Vexthal stood frozen. He had been watching the training through security cameras, making sure everything went smoothly for the human observer. Then he saw Katie Morrison walk onto the training floor through the wrong door. He reached for the communication panel to warn Sergeant Thaxil. But before he could speak, he saw the cubs drop their weapons. He saw them rush toward the human. He saw them gather around her like she was the most important thing in the universe. Vexthal had served in the Kavari military for 40 years. He had fought in 3 wars. He had commanded troops on a dozen worlds. He had seen things that would give nightmares to lesser warriors, but he had never seen anything like this. "Get me the human diplomatic section," he said to the officer next to him. His voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. Now, on the training floor, Sergeant Thaxil tried to regain control. He walked toward the group of cubs surrounding Katie. His voice was sharp with command. "Return to formation. All of you now." The cubs ignored him. Some of them did not even look up. They were too focused on the human in their midst. Thaxil had trained young warriors for 20 years. He had never been ignored before. He had never seen cubs abandon discipline like this. He moved closer, trying to pull one of the cubs away. The cub resisted, holding onto Katie's arm. "Please," Katie said, looking up at Thaxil. "Don't be angry with them." "This is my fault. I came through the wrong door." Thaxil stared at her. The human was sitting on his training floor, covered in Kavari cubs, apologizing to him. It was absurd. It was wrong. It went against everything he knew about proper behavior. But the cubs were calm. More than calm. They looked happy. Thaxil had trained thousands of young Kavari. He knew what fear looked like in their eyes. He knew what stress looked like. These cubs showed neither. They looked content in a way he had never seen before. "What are you doing to them?" he asked Katie. Katie blinked in surprise. "Nothing. I'm just sitting here. They dropped their weapons for you. They abandoned their training." "Why?" Katie looked down at the small cub still pressed against her side, the one who had come to her first. "I think they just needed someone to be kind to them." Before Thaxil could respond, the main doors to the training hall burst open. Commander Vexthal strode in, followed by 2 human officers. One was Ambassador Greg Palmer, the senior human diplomat on the station. The other was a woman Katie recognized from briefings, Dr. Lisa Brennan, a xenopsychologist. Vexthal stopped at the edge of the training floor. He stared at the scene before him. Ambassador Palmer and Dr. Brennan stopped beside him. All 3 of them stood silent. "Captain Morrison," Palmer finally said. His voice was carefully neutral. "Can you explain what happened here?" "I took a wrong turn," Katie said. She tried to stand up, but the cubs held onto her. "I ended up on the training floor instead of the observation platform. The cubs came to me. I didn't call them or do anything special." Dr. Brennan pulled out a recording device and started taking notes. Her hands were shaking. "Commander Vexthal, has anything like this ever happened before?" "Never," Vexthal said. "Our young are trained to be warriors from the time they can walk. They do not abandon their positions. They do not drop their weapons. They certainly do not rush toward strangers." "But they rushed toward her," Brennan said, gesturing to Katie. "Why?" Nobody had an answer. They watched as Katie continued to interact with the cubs. She was not doing anything remarkable. She touched them gently. She spoke to them softly. She paid attention when they tried to show her things or tell her things. It was simple, basic interaction. But the cubs responded like they had been waiting their entire lives for someone to treat them this way. More Kavari began arriving at the training hall. Word had spread through the station quickly. Parents came to see what had happened to their children. Officers came to investigate the disturbance. Scientists came to observe. Within an hour, dozens of Kavari lined the walls of the hall, watching in silence. The cubs still refused to leave Katie's side. When their parents called them, they looked up but did not move. Some parents tried to approach and pull their children away. The cubs resisted, clinging to Katie. "We need to end this," one Kavari parent said loudly. "This is not natural. The human has done something to them." "I haven't done anything," Katie protested. "I promise. I'm just sitting here." Dr. Brennan stepped forward. "Commander Vexthal, I think I know what's happening. But you're not going to like it." "Explain," Vexthal demanded. Brennan gestured toward Katie and the cubs. "Humans have very strong instincts toward caring for young creatures. Any young creatures, it's in our biology. We evolved as social animals who raised our children in groups. Adults who were good at caring for children were more successful at passing on their genes. Over millions of years, this instinct became very powerful. So powerful that humans will bond with almost anything that seems young or vulnerable." "That explains the human's behavior," Vexthal said. "It does not explain why our cubs responded this way." "That's the part you won't like," Brennan said quietly. "I think your cubs are responding to something they've never experienced before. Something their own culture doesn't provide. Humans don't just protect their young, they nurture them. They offer unconditional gentleness. They give comfort without expecting strength in return. Your cubs are encountering this for the first time in their lives, and they want more of it." The training hall fell silent. Every Kavari present understood the implication. Dr. Brennan was suggesting that something was missing from Kavari child-rearing. Something humans had but Kavari did not. "This is impossible," Sergeant Thaxel said. "Our methods have produced the finest warriors in 3 sectors for 10,000 years. "I'm not questioning your warriors," Brennan replied. "I'm just explaining what we're seeing. Human nurturing behaviors trigger responses in young creatures across species. We've seen it with animals on Earth. We're seeing it with your cubs now." Ambassador Palmer cleared his throat. "Commander Vexithal, I think we need to discuss this situation at a higher level. This could have significant implications for human-Kavari relations." Vexthal nodded slowly. He looked at Katie, still surrounded by cubs who refused to leave. "Captain Morrison, can you stand up?" "I can try," Katie said. She started to rise. The cubs moved with her, pressing close. When she finally stood, she had at least 10 cubs still holding onto her arms and clothes. "This," Vexthal said, "is going to require a very long conversation." The video played on screens across the Kavari Empire within 6 hours. Someone had shared the security footage from the training hall. It showed everything. Katie Morrison walking onto the floor, the small cub dropping its weapon, the rush of young warriors abandoning their discipline to gather around a human. The footage went everywhere. Military networks, government channels, public information streams. By the end of the day, it was the most viewed piece of media in Kavari history. A human woman surrounded by Kavari cubs who refused to leave her side. It was impossible to look away. Katie did not see any of this at first. She spent 3 hours in a medical bay being examined by both human and Kavari doctors. They checked everything: blood pressure, hormone levels, brain activity. They scanned her for devices or chemicals that might explain what happened. They found nothing unusual. She was just a human woman with perfectly normal biology. The cubs were examined too, all 30 of them. The doctors found the same thing. Normal, healthy young Kavari. No signs of mind control or chemical influence. No indication of anything wrong at all. Then why did they behave that way? A Kavari doctor demanded. The human doctor, a man named Peter Walsh, shrugged. Because she was kind to them. Because humans are very good at making young creatures feel safe. It's not complicated. It should not be possible, the Kavari doctor insisted. Our young are trained to resist emotional manipulation. This wasn't manipulation, Walsh said. This was just normal human behavior around children. Well, cubs in this case, same principle. While the doctors argued, Katie sat on an examination table and worried about what would happen next. She had violated protocol by entering the training floor. She had disrupted a sacred Kavari tradition. She might have damaged the treaty between their species. All because she took a wrong turn and could not help being kind to a frightened cub. Ambassador Palmer came to see her after the examination. He sat down next to her with a tired expression. "You've created quite a situation, Captain." "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to cause any problems." "I know you didn't," Palmer said. "But we have problems anyway. Half the Kavari leadership wants to send you home. They think you're a threat to their culture. The other half wants to study you like you're some kind of scientific miracle. And the parents of those cubs are flooding our communication channels with questions. Katie felt her stomach sink. What kind of questions? They want to know why their children won't stop talking about you. They want to know what you did. They want to know if you can do it again. Palmer rubbed his face. Katie, those cubs went home and apparently spent hours telling their parents about the human who was nice to them. Some of the parents are angry, but others are curious. A few are even asking if you can spend time with their cubs again. Really? Really? Palmer stood up. The Kavari High Council wants to speak with you tomorrow. You, me, Dr. Brennan, and Commander Vexthal. They want answers about what happened and what it means. Katie barely slept that night. She kept thinking about the small cub that had come to her first, the one who had been shaking with fear. She wondered if it was okay. She wondered if it had gotten in trouble for dropping its weapon. The council meeting took place in a room Katie had never seen before. It was deep in the Kavari section of the station, in an area normally closed to humans. The room was circular with a high ceiling. 12 Kavari elders sat on raised platforms around the edge. They were all old, their scales marked with the scars of long lives. Their eyes were hard and unforgiving. Katie stood in the center of the circle with Ambassador Palmer and Dr. Brennan on either side of her. Commander Vexthal stood slightly apart, representing the Kavari military. Katie felt very small and very human in that space. The eldest of the council, a massive Kavari with pure white scales, spoke first. Captain Katie Morrison, you have caused disruption to our warrior training. You have interfered with our cubs. Explain yourself. Katie took a breath and tried to keep her voice steady. Honored elders, I made a mistake. I took a wrong turn and ended up on the training floor. When I saw the cubs, I saw that one of them was scared. I responded the way any human would respond to a frightened child. I tried to comfort it. Why? The elder asked. The question surprised Katie. Because it was scared. Because it needed help. It was training to be a warrior. Fear is part of training. Why did you interfere? Katie struggled to find words. I didn't think about it. I just reacted. Humans have instincts about young ones who are scared or hurt. We help them. We can't stop ourselves. Another elder spoke up. You gained nothing from helping the cub. You received no payment, no favor. Why waste time and energy on another species' offspring? It's not a waste, Katie said. It's just what we do. Humans care for young creatures even when they're not our own children. Even when they're not human. If we can't help it. Dr. Brennan stepped forward. Honored elders, if I may explain. Humans evolved as cooperative breeders. In our early history, we raised children in groups. Adults who were good at caring for any child in the group, not just their own, were more successful. This behavior became part of our biology. We will try to help any young creature that appears to need help, regardless of species. This is weakness, a third elder said. Caring for others' offspring wastes resources. It's made us very successful, Dr. Brennan countered. Human civilization has spread across dozens of worlds. Our population is growing faster than almost any other species. Our instinct to care for the young, even young that aren't ours, has been an advantage, not a weakness. The council elders conferred among themselves in low voices. Katie could not hear what they were saying. She stood and waited, her heart pounding. Finally, the white-scaled elder spoke again. Captain Morrison, answer this question truthfully. When our cubs came to you, what did you feel? Katie thought carefully. I felt happy. I felt needed. I wanted to help them feel safe and confident. I wanted them to know they were doing well, even if they were struggling. I wanted them to feel valued. Why did you want them to feel these things? Because all young ones deserve to feel valued, Katie said simply. Human or Kavari or any other species, they're just children. They're learning and growing. They should know that someone believes in them. Silence filled the room. The elders stared at Katie with expressions she could not read. Finally, one of them spoke, an elder with dark green scales. This is a concept we do not have, the elder said slowly. Our cubs are trained to be strong through hardship. They learn that only the strongest survive. They learn that weakness brings shame. What you described, this idea that young ones should feel valued regardless of their strength, this is foreign to us. Is it wrong? Katie asked quietly. We do not know, the elder admitted. We have built an empire using our methods. But we watched the footage of our cubs gathering around you. We saw something in their faces we have not seen before. We do not have a word for it in our language, Dr. Brennan spoke up again. The word in our language is joy. Pure, uncomplicated joy. The white-scaled elder leaned forward. Captain Morrison, we have decided. You will remain on this station. You will continue to interact with our cubs under controlled conditions. We must understand what effect your human nurturing has on young Kavari development. This is too important to ignore. Katie felt relief wash over her. I'll do whatever you need, honored elders. There are conditions, the elder continued. You will work with our trainers. You will not undermine our warrior culture. You will document everything you do so we can study it. And most importantly, any cub who comes to your sessions must choose to do so freely. We will not force them. I agree to all of those conditions, Katie said. Ambassador Palmer spoke for the first time. Honored elders, this arrangement is acceptable to the human government as well. We believe this cultural exchange will benefit both our species. The council adjourned. As Katie walked out of the chamber, Commander Vexthal fell into step beside her. You should know something, Captain. The video of what happened has spread through our entire empire. Every Kavari has seen it by now. You have become famous among my people. Is that good or bad? Katie asked. Both, Vexthal said. Traditional warriors see you as a threat to our way of life. But many parents are asking questions about how we raise our young. You have started something that cannot be stopped. I didn't mean to start anything. I just couldn't walk past a scared cub. I know, Vexthal said. That is what makes this so difficult to fight. You did not plot or plan. You simply acted according to your nature. How do we argue against nature? The next day, Katie returned to the training hall. This time she entered through the proper door and stood on the observation platform. Sergeant Thaxel was drilling a different group of cubs. The training was harsh and demanding. Cubs who made mistakes were corrected sharply. There was no praise, only criticism. The cubs worked with intense focus, but Katie saw the tension in their bodies, the fear in their eyes when they failed. After an hour, Thaxel called a break. The cubs stood at attention, waiting for permission to rest. Thaxel looked up at the observation platform where Katie stood. He gestured for her to come down. Katie descended the stairs carefully. When she reached the training floor, the cubs' eyes followed her. She recognized some of them from the day. 3 months passed. Katie's 10-minute sessions with the cubs became part of the daily routine in the training hall. Every morning, the cubs trained under Sergeant Thaxel's harsh instruction. Every midday, Katie came down from the observation platform and spent time with them during their break. Every afternoon, they returned to their regular training. The pattern never changed, but everything else did. Katie learned the names of all 30 cubs. She learned which ones were confident and which ones struggled. She learned who needed encouragement before attempting difficult moves and who needed calming after making mistakes. She learned that Zix, the smallest cub who had come to her first, was actually quite skilled when not paralyzed by fear of failure. The cubs changed too. They still trained hard. They still learned to fight and defend, but they stopped flinching when they made errors. They started asking Thaxel questions instead of just following orders silently. They began helping each other during drills, showing weaker cubs how to improve instead of mocking them for being slow. Sergeant Thaxel noticed. He said nothing at first, but Katie caught him watching during her sessions with the cubs. He saw how she praised effort instead of just results. He saw how she turned mistakes into learning opportunities. He saw how the cubs responded to encouragement differently than they responded to criticism. One day, Thaxel asked Katie to stay after the cubs left. They stood alone in the vast training hall. The sergeant looked uncomfortable, like he was about to admit something difficult. Your methods work, he said finally. The cubs are learning faster than any group I have trained before. Their combat skills are equal to previous years, but their ability to adapt and think during combat is superior. I do not understand how this is possible. Katie chose her words carefully. Sergeant, when cubs are afraid of being punished for mistakes, they become cautious. They only try things they know they can do. When they know someone will support them even if they fail, they're brave enough to try harder things. They learn faster because they're not afraid to experiment. But how do they learn discipline without punishment? They do have discipline, Katie said. They follow your orders. They work hard. They respect your authority. But they also know they're valued as individuals, not just as future warriors. That makes them want to succeed for themselves, not just to avoid punishment. Thaxel was quiet for a long time. I have trained cubs for 20 years. I have always believed that harshness made them strong. You are telling me I was wrong. Not wrong, Katie said gently. Your methods made strong warriors. But maybe there's a way to make strong warriors who are also confident and creative and able to work together better. Maybe it's not one or the other. Maybe it can be both. The sergeant nodded slowly. I would like to learn more about your methods. That conversation led to others. Thaxel started sitting in on Katie's sessions, watching carefully. He asked questions about why she responded to cubs in certain ways. Katie explained child psychology as best she could, translating human concepts into terms a Kavari warrior could understand. After a month of observation, Thaxel tried something new. During regular training, when a cub failed a drill 3 times in a row, he did not yell or punish. Instead, he stopped, showed the cub where the mistake was happening, and gave specific advice on how to fix it. Then he said something no cub had ever heard from him before. Try again. You can do this. The cub succeeded on the next attempt. Thaxel moved on without further comment, but Katie saw the shock on every cub's face. Their instructor had encouraged them. It was unprecedented. Word of the changes at Sentinel-7 spread through the Kavari military network. Other training facilities asked for reports. Some instructors were skeptical. Others were curious. A few requested permission to observe Katie's methods firsthand. Commander Vexthal found himself answering questions from high-ranking officers throughout the Empire. Most wanted to know if the cubs were becoming weak. Vexthal had the same concern, so he arranged for combat testing. The cubs from Thaxel's program were matched against cubs from traditional training programs on other stations. The results surprised everyone. The cubs trained with Katie's influence performed slightly better in individual combat, but significantly better in team exercises. They communicated more effectively. They adapted faster to changing situations. They showed better strategic thinking. How is this possible? An admiral asked Vexthal during a secure transmission. These cubs spend 10 minutes each day with a human who does nothing but be gentle with them. They should be softer, weaker. Instead, they are better warriors? I believe, Vexthal said carefully, that when cubs feel secure and valued, they learn more effectively. Fear motivates them to avoid punishment, but confidence motivates them to excel. The human captain provides confidence. Sergeant Thaxel provides skill. Together, they create superior results. This contradicts everything we know about warrior training. Yes, Vexthal agreed. It does. The admiral was silent for a moment. Other facilities are requesting similar programs. Parents are demanding it. What do I tell them? Tell them we are conducting ongoing research. Tell them the results are promising but not yet conclusive. Tell them we need more time to understand this fully. But time was not a luxury they had. The video of Katie surrounded by cubs continued to spread. Now it was not just watched on Kavari worlds. Other species saw it too. Within the galactic community, humans gained a new reputation. They were not just clever or adaptable or good traders. They were the species that could make young ones of any race feel safe and valued. Some species requested human advisors for their own child-rearing programs. Others mocked the Kavari for being influenced by soft humans. But everyone paid attention. On Sentinel-7, Katie's sessions expanded. The original 30 cubs still came every day, but now other cubs asked to attend. Cubs from different training groups. Cubs who were struggling. Cubs who just wanted to experience what they had heard about from others. Katie and Thaxel worked together to accommodate more cubs. The 10-minute sessions became 20 minutes. The training hall added a second break period. More human observers arrived to study Katie's methods and learn from them. One of these observers was Dr. Helen Carter, a child psychologist from Earth. She spent 3 weeks watching Katie work with the cubs and interviewing Kavari parents. Her report was extensive and detailed. What Captain Morrison does is not complex, Carter wrote. She listens when cubs speak. She acknowledges their feelings without judgment. She praises effort and improvement rather than just success. She treats mistakes as learning opportunities. She maintains clear boundaries while offering emotional support. These are basic principles of healthy child development. The remarkable thing is not that they work on Kavari cubs. The remarkable thing is that no one tried them before. Carter's report circulated through both human and Kavari leadership. It sparked debates that lasted months. Traditional Kavari argued that adopting human methods would destroy their warrior culture. Progressive Kavari pointed to the combat test results and asked why they would reject methods that produced better warriors. Parents were divided. Some refused to allow their cubs near Katie or any human using similar methods. Others specifically requested placement in programs that included human-style nurturing. A few tried to implement the methods at home with mixed results. Being gentle with cubs did not come naturally to a species that had valued toughness for 10,000 years. In the middle of all this controversy, Katie just kept showing up every day. She sat with the cubs during their breaks. She listened to their stories. She encouraged them when they struggled. She celebrated their successes. She did not try to change Kavari culture or undermine their values. She just treated young ones with kindness. Zix, the small cub who had started everything, thrived under the combined attention of Thaxil's training and Katie's encouragement. Its combat skills improved dramatically. More importantly, its confidence grew. It stopped being the smallest, weakest cub in the group and became a leader among its peers. One day, Zix approached Katie during a break period. "Captain Katie, I have a question." "Of course." "What is it?" "Why do humans care about young ones who are not their own?" "My parent says it makes no sense from a survival perspective." Katie smiled. "It does make sense, just in a different way. Humans survive by working together. We take care of each other's children because we know others will take care of ours. The whole group becomes stronger when all cubs are supported, not just the strongest ones." "But what do you gain from helping me? I am not human. I cannot help your cubs." "I gain the knowledge that you're learning and growing and becoming the best version of yourself. That makes me happy." "That's enough." Zix tilted its head, thinking, "Kavari do not usually think this way." "I know. But maybe you can. Maybe your generation can keep the strength and discipline of traditional Kavari culture, but add compassion too. Maybe you can be warriors who also care about each other. That would make you stronger, not weaker." "I will think about this," Zix said seriously. That evening, Katie met with Ambassador Palmer and Commander Vexthal in a private office. They reviewed the latest reports from various Kavari facilities considering similar programs. 15 military academies want to implement your methods, Palmer told Katie. 23 others are watching closely. The Kavari High Council is divided on whether to allow widespread 5 years past. Katie Morrison stood in the same training hall where everything had begun, but it looked different now. The walls still bore the marks of claws and weapons, but new additions had appeared. Along one wall, benches had been installed where cubs could sit during rest periods. A section in the corner held supplies for treating minor injuries with gentleness, rather than just efficiency. Small changes, but they represented something much larger. The cubs training today were not the same ones Katie had met 5 years ago. Those cubs were now young adults, serving in various positions throughout the Kavari military. Zix had graduated at the top of its class and was training to become an instructor. The others had scattered to different posts, but Katie still received messages from many of them. These new cubs were different from the start. They had grown up hearing stories about the human who changed everything. Some of their parents had specifically chosen this training facility because of Katie's presence. They came to the program already knowing that strength and compassion could exist together. Sergeant Thaxil stood at the front of the formation, leading drills. His methods had evolved over the years. He was still demanding, still precise, but he no longer relied solely on harsh criticism. He corrected mistakes with explanation. He praised improvement. He treated the cubs as individuals while maintaining discipline. Other instructors had learned from his example, and the changes spread. Katie watched from the floor now instead of the observation platform. That had changed in the second year, when the Kavari High Council officially recognized her position as Cultural Development Advisor. She worked directly with instructors and cubs, no longer just an observer, but an integrated part of the training program. The morning drill ended. Thaxil dismissed the cubs for their break. They moved to the benches, grabbing water and sitting down to rest. Katie walked over and several cubs greeted her enthusiastically. She knew their names, their strengths, their struggles. She had learned to read Kavari body language as well as human. She could tell which cubs had difficult mornings and which ones were riding high on success. "Captain Katie," one cub called out, "can you watch my blade work later? I cannot get the third form right." "I'll watch," Katie promised, "but I bet Instructor Thaxil can explain it better than I can." "Have you asked him?" The cub looked uncertain. "He is very busy. He's never too busy to help cubs learn." "Go ask him." "I'll come with you if you want." They walked together to where Thaxil was reviewing notes on his datapad. The cub asked its question hesitantly. Thaxil put down the pad immediately and demonstrated the proper form, slowly and clearly. He made the cub try it 3 times, correcting small details each time. When the cub got it right, Thaxil nodded approval. Better. Practice that 50 times before tomorrow. You will have it mastered soon. The cub returned to the benches with a glow of pride. Katie stayed behind with Thaxil. They had worked together for 5 years now, and the old sergeant had become something like a friend. You have trained me well, Thaxil said quietly. I no longer need you to show me how to encourage them. You never needed me, Katie replied. You just needed permission to be kind. Your warrior culture told you kindness was weakness. It was wrong. It was all we knew. Thaxil looked at the cubs resting on the benches. I have a grandson now. He is 3 years old by your counting. When he is old enough for training, I want him to learn the way these cubs learn, not the way I was taught. Katie felt warmth spread through her chest. This was why she had stayed for 5 years despite numerous offers to return to Earth or transfer to other posts. These small victories, these incremental changes in how an entire species viewed their young, this was worth staying for. Your grandson will have an excellent instructor, Katie said. You've become one of the best teachers I've seen, Kavari or human. Thaxil made a sound that might have been a laugh. Praise from you still feels strange, but I am learning to accept it. Later that day, Katie met with Commander Vexthal in his office. The commander was preparing to retire after 42 years of military service. His replacement would arrive next month. They were discussing the transition and what it meant for the programs Katie had helped create. The new commander is young, Vexthal said. She was trained in the old ways but has studied the new methods extensively. She supports your work. That's good to hear, Katie, Vexthal said, using her first name as he rarely did. I need to tell you something. 5 years ago, when you walked onto that training floor, I thought it was a disaster. I thought you would damage relations between our species. I thought you would weaken our cubs, I know. I could see it in your face and what I was wrong about everything. The cubs you influenced have become exceptional warriors. More than that, they have become leaders, teachers, innovators. They think differently than previous generations. They solve problems creatively. They work together effectively. And they do not see gentleness as weakness. You have changed my species, Katie Morrison. Not in a generation or two. Now. In 5 years, you have started a transformation that will echo through Kavari culture for centuries. Katie felt tears prick her eyes. I just treated scared cubs with kindness. Anyone could have done it? No, Vexthal said firmly. Not anyone. Humans could have done it, perhaps, but only humans. Your species has a gift we lacked. You shared that gift freely, without asking for anything in return. That is what makes it powerful. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Vexthal handed Katie a data pad. These are reports from the 73 military facilities that have now implemented programs based on your methods. The results are consistent. Better combat performance, better teamwork, better adaptation to stress, lower rates of training injuries, higher rates of retention. The traditional methods produced warriors. Your methods produce better warriors. The evidence is overwhelming. Katie scrolled through the reports. 73 facilities, thousands of cubs learning to be both strong and compassionate. It was more than she had ever imagined when she knelt down in front of one frightened cub 5 years ago. The Kavari High Council has made a formal decision, Vexthal continued. They are adopting the integrated training methods as the new standard across the Empire. All facilities will transition over the next 3 years. They want you to help train instructors. They are offering you a position as Director of Cultural Development for the entire Kavari military. Katie sat back, stunned. That's a huge responsibility. Yes, it is also a great honor. No human has ever held such a position in Kavari society. They are recognizing that what you bring is valuable enough to warrant unprecedented access and authority. I need to think about it, Katie said slowly. I'm just one person. Training instructors for an entire empire is enormous work. You would have a staff, human and Kavari both. Dr. Brennan has already agreed to join the team. 3 other human psychologists have volunteered. We would assign 50 Kavari instructors to work with you. You would not be alone in this. Katie looked at the datapad again. 73 facilities, soon to be hundreds. Thousands of cubs learning a better way. The chance to influence an entire civilization's approach to raising children. It was overwhelming and terrifying and wonderful all at once. Can I give you an answer in a week? Of course. This is not a decision to make quickly. That evening, Katie returned to her quarters and called Earth. Her mother answered, face appearing on the screen with a bright smile. They talked for an hour about small things and large things. Finally, Katie explained the offer. That's incredible, honey, her mother said. But do you want to do it? You've been away from Earth for 5 years already. We miss you. I miss home too, Katie admitted. But I feel like this work isn't finished. There's so much more to do. These cubs need what I can offer. Not just me personally, but what humans understand about caring for young ones. I can't walk away from that. Her mother smiled, that warm, understanding smile Katie remembered from childhood. You were always like this. You brought home every stray animal, every hurt bird, every lost kitten. You couldn't see something that needed help without stopping. I guess alien cubs aren't that different from hurt birds, Katie laughed. I guess not. Do what your heart tells you, Katie. You'll make the right choice. The week passed quickly. Katie observed training sessions, talked with instructors, spent time with cubs. She watched how they responded to encouragement, how they blossomed under patient teaching, how they learned to be strong without being cruel. She thought about what would happen if she left, if she went back to Earth and left this work unfinished. She couldn't do it. She couldn't walk away from cubs who needed what she offered. It was that simple. Katie accepted the position. The announcement was made through official channels. Her title was Director of Integrated Development for Kavari Youth Training. Her mission was to help transform how an entire species raised its young. The work would take years, maybe decades. But Katie had learned that the most important work often took time. On her last day as the advisor for Sentinel-7, Katie visited the training hall one final time. Thaxil had arranged a ceremony,